So, today we are once again doing something very old in terms of I have done it before, but it's quite some time since then, or quite some time past since then. And we're gonna read a few short stories. I don't actually know who has written all these short stories. This is an article by the wealthy gorilla, I think.com site. The links are always gonna be down in the description, also in the podcast notes, And so if you want to read them on yourself and on your own, please do that, because I don't want to waste your time with me reading it, and so that you can use it as an audiobook where the podcast is a bit better. But on the other hand, I'm probably going to add some things where I can and where I want to. And we're going to see the 10 the 10 best short moral stories. So I have specifically search for stories with a moral, because I think that fiction is incredibly good at teaching things. And this is something that's not only my opinion, but I also think that Bill Gates himself said that in some or the other way. And so I've been searching for just moral stories but of course there's just amazing short stories out there that you can read for free on the internet. So if you're interested in reading in general, or if you just have some time for reading and maybe learning something new, then please go ahead and read some short stories. And there is probably some authors that write a couple of short stories where you then can actually satisfy your need for stories if you really get into it and stuff, But some of these stories are very short and basic. In fact, some are so basic they are most likely featured in children's books somewhere. However, the strength of the message remains the same. So here are some more of the best short moral stories. The first one is An Old Man Lived in a Village. I don't actually know if I've already read them. It could actually be the case, but anyway. An old man lived in a village. He was one of the most unfortunate people in the world. The whole village was tired of him. He was always gloomy. He constantly complained and was always in a bad mood. The longer he lived, the more vile he was becoming, and the more poisonous were his words. People avoided him because his fortune became contagious. It was even unnatural and insulting to be happy next to him. He created the feeling of unhappiness in others. But one day, when he turned 80 years old, an incredible thing happened. Instantly, everyone started hearing the rumor. An old man is happy today. He doesn't complain about anything, smiles, and even his face is freshened up. The whole village gathered together. The old man asked, "Villager, what happened to you?" "Nothing special. 80 years I've been chasing happiness and it was useless, and then I decided to live without happiness and just enjoy my life. That is why I'm happy now, an old man." And the moral of the story, because they always just point that out, don't chase happiness, enjoy your life. I'm not going to read those moral of the story thing them quite explaining the whole story. And I'm also going to go from the last story to the first story. To kind of mitigate the risks that I've already been going through them. Even though I don't know it, I just don't want to go through things twice. Anyway, the 10th one is The Lion and the Poor Slave. A slave, ill-treated by his master, runs away to the forest. There he comes across a lion in pain because of a thorn in his paw. The slave barely goes forward and removes the thorn gently. The lion, without hurting him, goes away. Some days later, the slave's master comes hunting to the forest and catches many animals and cages them. The slave is spotted by the master's men, who catch him and bring him to the cruel master. The master asks for the slave to be thrown into the lion's cage. The slave is awaiting his death in a cage when he realized that it is the same lion that he had helped. The slave rescued the lion and all other caged animals. And I'm not going to read the moral thing down, because I think that it is better for you to think about it on your own, so that you do have a bit more room and space for maybe also thinking about something different, because it doesn't necessarily have to be the case that you're just thinking about the same thing as they are thinking about, which, I don't want to mitigate the space there, or just lower or just compress the space, whatever you want to say. The Fox and the Grapes. One afternoon, a fox was walking through the forest and spotted a bunch of grapes hanging from over a lofty branch. "Just the thing to quench my thirst," he thought. Taking a few steps back, the fox jumped and just missed the hanging grapes. Again, the fox took a few paces back and tried to reach them, but still failed. Finally, giving up, the fox turned up his nose and said, "They are probably sour anyway," and proceeded to walk away. Then the next story, which is a bit longer as I'm seeing, The Struggle of Our Life. Once upon a time, a daughter complains to her father that her life was miserable and that she didn't know how she was going to make it. She was tired of fighting and struggling all the time. It seemed just as one problem was solved, another one soon followed. Her father, a chef, took her to the kitchen. He filled 3 pots with water and placed each on a high fire. Once the 3 pots began to boil, he placed potatoes in one pot, eggs in the second pot, and ground coffee beans in a third pot. He then let them sit and boil without saying a word to his daughter. The daughter moaned and impatiently waited, wondering what he was doing. After 20 minutes, he turned off the burners. He took the potatoes out of the pot and placed them in a bowl. He pulled the eggs out and placed them in a bowl. He then ladled the coffee out and placed it in a cup. Turning to her, he asked, "Daughter, what do you see?" "Potatoes, eggs, and coffee," she hastily replied. "Look closer," he said, and touched the potatoes. She did and nodded that they were soft. He then asked her to take an egg and break it. After pulling off the shell, she observed the hard-boiled egg. Finally, he asked her to sip the coffee. Its rich aroma brought a smile to her face. "Father, what does this mean?" she asked. He then explained that the potatoes, the eggs, coffee beans had each faced the same adversity, the boiling water. However, each one reacted differently. The potato went in strong, hard, and unrelenting, but in boiling water it became soft and weak. The egg was fragile, with the hint or thin outer shell protecting its liquid interior until it was put in the boiling water. Then the inside of the egg became hard. However, the ground coffee beans were unique. After they were exposed to the boiling water, they changed the water and created something new. "Which one are you?" he asked his daughter. "When adversity knocks on your door, how do you respond? Are you a potato, an egg, or a coffee bean?" And we always react to things differently, because we are all different. 2 friends and the bear. Vijay and Raju were friends. On a holiday, they spent walking into a forest, enjoying the beauty of nature. Suddenly, they saw a bear coming at them. They became frightened. Raju, who knew all about climbing trees, ran up to a tree and climbed up quickly. He didn't think about Vijay or whatever. Vijay had no idea how to climb the tree. Vijay thought for a second. He'd heard animals don't prefer dead bodies, so he fell to the ground and held his breath. The bear sniffed him and thought he was dead, so it went on its way. Raju asked Vijay, "What did the bear whisper into your ears?" Vijay replied, "The bear asked me to keep away from friends like you," and went on his way. This is a fucked up story. I don't like it. The greedy lion. It was an incredibly hot day and a lion was feeling very hungry. He came out of his den and searched here and there. He could find only a small hare, or hare, whatever. He caught the hare with some hesitation. "This hare can't feel my stomach," thought the lion. As the lion was about to kill the hare, a deer ran that way. The lion became greedy. He thought, "Instead of eating the small hare, let me eat the big deer." He let the hare go and went behind the deer, but the deer had vanished into the forest. The lion now felt sorry for letting the hare off. Well, of course, for the lion it is a bad situation, and a little bit of a bad situation. But of course, for the hare, or however you actually pronounce it, it is amazing and it is good. But maybe we should not be greedy. Maybe we should just be happy with what we have and be grateful for what we have, because especially when you're living in a first world country like I'm living in Austria, and everything is really fine. There is nothing to worry about, and the only thing that is putting me off and that is making me unhappy relatively often is my own mind. And it is something that I can control. Ultimately it is my mind. Of course there is some reasons why it is my mind. Of course it's not just it's not depression quite, but it is not seeing things that I should be seeing, not reacting in the way I should be reacting, and these 2 things basically, I would say, most often. And it is something that we all can change, and it is something we all have control over. And of course, there is going to be bad things in everyone's life, whether you're living in a first world country or you're living in a third world country, or there is another word. Because I think at this point in time, you don't say third world country anymore, but it is just developing country or something like that. But so this is the case, I'm having it the best somebody can have. There is There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to complain about. There's nothing that is bad unless I make it bad, unless I think about it as being something bad, as easy as I could say it quite. Yeah. The 4 smart students. One night, 4 college students were out partying late night and didn't study for the test, which was scheduled for the next day. In the morning, they thought about a plan. They made themselves look dirty with grease and dirt. Then they went to the dean and said they had gone out a wedding last night, and on their way back, the tire of their car burst and they had to push the car all the way back. So they were in no condition to take the test. The dean thought for a minute and said they can have the retest after 3 days. They thanked him and said they will be ready by that time. On the 3rd day, they appeared before the dean. The dean said that as this was a special condition test, all 4 were required to sit in separate rooms or classrooms for the test. They all agreed as they had prepared well in the last 3 days. The test consisted of only 2 questions with the total of 100 points. Your name, your name, which is 1 point, or just by doing this you get 1 point, and which tire burst. Front left, front right, back left, or back right. This is fucking amazing. I have not thought about that. I really haven't. And that's really fucking amazing. I enjoyed it. Shit, man. Don't fucking lie. It's just not worth it. Why should you? You know? Why should you? Don't fucking do that. Like there's lying to yourself is one thing, lying to others is another thing, but you shouldn't do both. Period. Having a best friend. A story tells that 2 friends were walking through the desert, and during some point of the journey they had an argument and one friend slapped the other one in the face. The one who got slapped was hurt, but without saying anything wrote in the sand, "Today my best friend slapped me in the face." They kept on walking until they found an oasis where they decided to take a bath. The one who had been slapped got stuck in a mire and started drowning, but the friend saved him. After he recovered from the near drowning, he wrote on a stone, "Today my best friend saved my life." The friend who had slapped and saved his best friend asked him, "After I heard you, you wrote in the sand, and now you write on a stone. Why?" The other friend replied, When someone hurts us, we should write it down in sand where winds of forgiveness can erase it. But when someone does something good for you, good for us, we must engrave it in stone where no wind or wind can ever erase it." Which I think is totally the truth. I nearly constantly forget about the things that somebody did to me. No matter what it might be, no matter what bad it might be, I do very, very often focus on good things in people, which is not always the best thing. Of course, it really is not. But I do think that my ability to forget things, which I'm quite often doing, but sometimes it's unfortunate, just don't get me wrong. Forgetting things all the fucking time is not amazing, at least not always. But sometimes it actually is, especially when it is something that is bothering you or something that is just hurting you and that's not feeling that great. But these are great stories. I enjoyed that. And the thing is, having a best friend, I already thought, well, this is going to be amazing. I don't actually know why, but friendship is amazing. Friendship is just amazing. There's nothing to say about that. There's nothing to fucking say about that. The foolish donkey. A salt seller used to carry the salt bag on his donkey to the market every day. On the way they had to cross a stream. One day the donkey suddenly tumbled down the stream and the salt bag also fell into the water. The salt dissolved in the water and hence the bag became very light to carry. The donkey was happy. Then the donkey started to play the same trick every day. The salt seller came to understand the trick and decided to teach a lesson to it. The next day he loaded a cotton bag on the donkey. Again it played the same trick, hoping that the cotton bag would still become lighter. But the damned cotton became very heavy to carry and the donkey suffered. It learned a lesson. It didn't play the trick anymore after that day and the seller was happy. And the moral of the story is don't be a fucking asshole. And this is the last one, the wise man. People have been coming to the wise man complaining about the same problems every time. One day he told them a joke and everyone roared in lather. After a couple of minutes he told them the same joke and only a few of them smiled. When he told the same joke for the third time, no one laughed anymore. The wise man smiled and said, "You can't laugh at the same joke over and over, so why are you always crying about the same problem?" Motherfucker. And yeah, with that being said, I think this is going to be the end of the episode. So I really do hope that I'm able to share some things and, therefore some stories and some thoughts that were able to help you in some way. Maybe it's going to be tomorrow. Maybe it's going to be the next day. Maybe it's going to be whenever. You think, well, yeah, this was actually quite good. Maybe it's never going to be the case. This could also definitely be the thing. But yeah. I wish you the best health, happiness, and all success, and also hope that you're going to remind yourself and you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy, and basically means just being a nice person and then being remembered as a nice person, which is a pretty fucking cool thing. 3 other questions that I'm having for you are: why are you here? What are you trying to change, and what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea, which is a pretty fucking cool thing. One last thing that I want to give you is, or ask you is, what could you essentially say to another person that is indeed going to change their life? Because I totally believe that we all can say something, that we all can communicate something that's indeed going to change somebody's life. And with that being said, bye-bye, and please take care of yourself, your family members, and everyone you love. Period.